Several sources say was set. The flames shot skyward at mid-morning at 702 Winchester Avenue. This was the second fire in this house in the past 10 days. The first one was ruled suspicious, and in today's blaze, sources say something incendiary was indeed used. The 11 firefighters were treated for smoke inhalation and bruises. 3 of them were hospitalized. The blazes have left 3 families homeless.
I don't know. Have to start from scratch, that's all.
What'd you lose here?
Everything.
Must be awful.
It is. Very depressing.
The investigation of the fire also involves the only dog of its kind in the world. This 2-year-old Labrador retriever named Maddie is on loan to the State Fire Marshal's office from federal alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agents. Now, Maddie is specially trained to sniff for accelerants, things that might cause a fire. Meanwhile, the arson squad captain Jack O'Rourke tells us that drugs may be a factor in at least one of the fires set at this home. We'll have more on the story at 11. That's at 6 tonight.
Gail King, Hilton Catterley Weather, Bill Patrick Sports, and the Channel 3 Eyewitness News Team.
Good evening. Arson tonight is thought to be the likely cause of a New Haven house fire that left 11 people injured.
Channel 3's Newton Burkett reports the house was vacant. All of those injured were firefighters, and the same building recently was the scene of another major fire.
Second fire in the same 3-family house on Winchester Avenue in the last 2 weeks. The fire broke out shortly after 10 o'clock this morning. It went to a second alarm almost immediately and burned out of control for nearly 20 minutes. As firefighters scrambled to get hose lines into the house, part of a porch collapsed, and 6 firefighters were injured. They were pulled out of the building and rushed to Yale New Haven Hospital with cuts and minor burns. 11 firefighters were injured in all. 4 were treated on the scene.
Firefighters say the building was supposed to have been vacant, sealed up after the first fire destroyed this building less than 2 weeks ago.
Buildings are supposed to be sealed after a fire, but buildings do get sealed, and then they get vandalized, and they get opened, and people go in there for one reason or another. And then you have the problem, it's been cold, people use whatever to get warm.
All the utilities have been turned off, and the chief says he's concerned. He wants to know whether the building was boarded up properly in the first place. A representative from the company that manages the building insists it was vacant, but wouldn't say anything else. A woman who used to live there said she thought it was vacant too.
We're living here, and Friday a week ago, there was a fire, and nobody could live in the house, so I was living with my daughter. And today, same thing.
Early this afternoon, arson investigators searched the smoky aftermath, at one point using a specially trained dog, looking for clues. Newton Burkett, Channel 3 Eyewitness News, New Haven.
Tonight, autopsy results are awaited in the death of a 13-year-old,
a dog that is involved with the investigation of a fire in New Haven. Peter Dench reports reliable sources say this blaze was set. 11 firefighters were injured fighting it.
This was a dramatic plea for help at 702 Winchester Avenue. Firefighters trying to save each other in a mid-morning blaze in a vacant building. A building hit by another suspicious fire just 10 days ago. This time, among the 11 firefighters injured, 3 were hospitalized. They were overcome by smoke, bruised, some hurt their necks. Reliable sources say an accelerant was used to start this fire. As for the blaze, November 7th.
In the first fire, there's possibility that drugs may have been involved in that particular fire.
Very upset if I find out who did it. I know something. I'm not sure, but I'll find out.
After 3 years, Jerome Harris was uprooted. So were a total of 3 families at landlord Marshall Marcus's building.
Disgusted. That's how it makes me feel.
I've been in a fire before, but I never lost anything, just smoke. But this time I lost everything.
Everything?
Yes. Very hurt.
Take it easy there. Amid these images, a 2-year-old Labrador retriever named Maddie sniffed for clues. The only dog of its kind in the world, she was trained by alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agents to sniff for accelerants. ATF has given her to the State Fire Marshal's office. Her work may help curb such fires, save a life, and save a home.
See if I can get help somewhere. I don't know where.
Landlord Marshall Marcus tells us he does have sub-insurance. Meanwhile, Arson Squad Captain O'Rourke calls 2 fires in this short a time in one building unusual. Peter Dench, Action News 8, New Haven.
And Peter tells us that Maddie, the unique accelerant-sniffing dog there, is loaned here by the Federal Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency. And he's here because of a pilot program which will run all the way through to next June.
Hopefully it's successful. Dozens of communities issued a murder warrant for 21
vacant since it was boarded up after a blaze 2 weeks ago. Today, though, someone apparently tried to torch the building, and firemen trying to contain the flames were gathered on a staircase when the structure gave way.
The neighborhood, and the signs offer a $1,000 reward for any information that will lead to the arrest of the person responsible for the fire. 4 firefighters were hospitalized fighting the stubborn blaze. All were released from area hospitals today. It's the second time in 2 weeks the house on Winchester Avenue has burned.